So before I get into the talk part, why don't we just take a moment now to reconnect with a memory of water that's very precious to you, a positive water memory, if possible, otherwise it'll have another effect. Water is an element that's quite unique in that it leaves a really powerful imprint on our bodies and our minds. So it's because it's so multisensory, and it means it's a wonderful way then to actually access and reconnect with water through the power of our memory or imagination. So the invitation now for the next minute or two is to try and recall your own memory of water, time when you felt most alive or present, that feeling of joy in and around water. If you wish, you can close your eyes. It helps bring that focus inward and you can visualize the memory more clearly. Just noticing how you feel by following the breath into the body. Noticing how the breath moves your body, creating its own inner rhythm, ebb and flow like the tide. Just simply noticing the breath as you breathe in, that sense of expansion. And as you exhale, allowing the body to soften, relax. And in your mind's eye, recalling that memory of water and just noticing. First, noticing perhaps the colors, the patterns, the movement of water. Just breathing into that memory. Noticing the sounds, what you can hear. Maybe it's the wind, the waves breaking. Noticing perhaps the smells as you breathe in. Damp earth. Saltiness of sea spray, perhaps even the taste, that slightly metallic taste of cold water, and noticing the touch, the sensations. Maybe it's the sun on your face, the wind on your skin, the water, how your body feels to be in this place. Perhaps it's supported by the water, perhaps feeling held. And then noticing how it feels to be there. Just taking a moment to let the fullness of that memory in. And on your next breath, following it into your body and gently releasing. In your own time. Bringing your awareness back into this space, into this room. Maybe bringing some movement into your body again. And just pausing there for a second to notice perhaps any shift in how you feel here now as a consequence of journeying through time to connect with water. Does anyone notice any shift in how they feel from when they maybe first arrived? I know I certainly do. I just get the jittery and feel like my diaphragm's up here when I start giving a talk and feel everything just dropping down, softening a little like water. Does anyone want to share maybe where their water body was or how it made them feel? Perhaps it's just out front. Yeah.
Over at the Nuns Beach, which is a little inlet down here.
Okay.
I didn't swim there a lot, and there was one where just the conditions were so perfect. It's kind of late September. It was actually warm. The water didn't feel Baltic.
It helps.
Point where you swim out and you can see Knocknaray, Van Bolven, and Cheaply on a good day.
Oh, wow.
So it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I was there and it's lovely.
Yeah. In amongst it all. It's so amazing that perspective shift that happens in water when you're describing the land that you look back at as well. That real connection to place, to hear. Sounds like it's really part of you. Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah. Anyone else? Secret spots that you're going to. Yeah, Patrick.
I went back to my first ever green wave surfing.
Oh, wow. I'd love to do that.
Hasn't been what one's in now, I think.
Huh. Yeah.
I just, my cousin pushed me into, my first ever green wave, and just that experience of the glassy water in front of me. It was a lovely sunny day, and I was like, how is this possible? So for me, that's where I went.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting doing it, what memory wants to surface. It can be different or surprising. It could be just from yesterday or from long ago. Yeah, what a great feeling. It's a feeling we're still seeking, isn't it, today? Yeah.
I did one last week. I was just down in the surf there on Strandhill. We hold the kids out.
Lovely.
My girl didn't want to get to see it all. She didn't want to engage at all with the surfing, but I put her on my back.
Yeah.
And she just hung onto my neck, and I surfed the wave, and I remember her squealing sheer joy into my ear as we were like shooting along. It was brilliant.
Oh, that's amazing. The incredible bond that forms when you have that shared connection as well in an unexpected way. Thank you. That's so beautiful. Yeah, and passing the gift on to the next generation in a way that feels like, yeah, you really met her where she was at. Oh, thank you. So yeah, that's what I wanted to explore a little bit now over the next the time I have with you. This topic for today, marine identity, and how does life on the edge of the Atlantic shape us and our well-being. And my talk today is kind of a journey of sorts, weaving together these threads of water connections and my own water heritage, but also our shared blue heritage through a mix of story, science, even mythology, offering insights into perhaps ways of being or practices, be that stories or physical embodiment, that might help shift just a little our modes of perception, make space, I think, for uncertainty and mystery, and embracing this maybe more thoughtful way of moving through the world by being in relationship or even kinship, rather, with the planet. So by that, I mean acknowledging the water, the waves, these coastal places, and relationships that give shape to who we are, to our identity. So I wanted to offer both local and global perspectives, probably more global in my talk, and because I know we're going to get really into the granular local lived experience with the amazing panel sessions later on, but also exploring this concept of marine identity, what it means perhaps to be a citizen of the sea. In 2024, Pamela Buchan and her colleagues published a paper kind of looking at could they kind of come up with a universal, maybe perhaps globally recognized definition of marine identity or marine citizenship. So they landed on this, which is intentionally very broad, recognizing the multitude of values and relationships that shape our identities, but essentially an identity rooted in how the ocean as a place supports the sense of self. And as we'll see, it's a very, this sense of self becomes, through, I think, our connection with the ocean, a very entangled experience, rather than feeling like we're some kind of separate individual. We begin to realize through this ocean connection of how interdependent, interconnected we are with the world around us. These words, I will begin with these words. Am gui imimur, am ton trehin, am fu mara. I am wind on ocean, I am swelling wave, I am roar of sea. Has anyone heard these words before? You're not allowed to put your hand up, Kat. Right, wow, okay, that's great. But these are believed to be the first words ever uttered in Ireland, or at least recorded, perhaps, by Amergine, who is chief poet and druid of the Milesians. So these are the very first people to settle the land known today as Ireland, or one of the early waves of settlers, that going back thousands of years ago. And these words were a declaration, really, of the unity and interdependence of all things, known as the Song of Amergine, and a reminder that there was a time when our ancestors, understood the wisdom of water, were attuned to the living world around them. And I'll speak a bit more about Amergine and the sort of legacy of this song in a few moments. But if relationships, and especially with the places we love and with the more than human world, the wind, the waves, the sea, the birds, if those relationships shape our identity, then how might the restoration of our relationship with the ocean become a way to also restore and heal ourselves and our communities? These are some of the questions I want to explore with you today. It's really central to my work and what I do, both as a researcher, a writer, a surfer. What if we lived more attuned to the waters within us and all around us? So saw ourselves really as a part of these catchments, a part of the water cycle. How might that help us find our belonging, especially in these times of so much loss and grief, disconnect, uncertainty? For me, I was born to pioneering surfing parents on a new moon during winter storms on the Atlantic coast, and named after a wave with its roots in the Irish word for fish, Easkey, just down the road from here. So I think it's little wonder I took to surfing from the time I could walk. If I didn't like the water, that would have been a problem. But for me, I think to be a surfer is also to be in conversation with the living world, with the ocean that breathes us all into existence. The sea shaping our experiences and feelings through this kind of powerful agency of its own. For me, experiencing this directly through surfing, this shaping effect, as I kind of think of it, is what creates a sense of becoming, identity. It's been my source of belonging growing up in sort of a rurally isolated place like Donegal as a young person. And then just that, having that, like, as we did in the beginning here, that really sensory experience, the movement and touch of water and how it ignites something in the body that literally triggers a whole cascade of changes in emotions, feelings, how we sense the world around us, changing us even at a physiological, biological level. And it's why water can be such a potent way to reconnect, to come back home, to our bodies especially. And on that, I've been exploring this concept or understanding of attunement. When I speak about it, we hear a lot about nature connection, deepening a relational connection with the world around us. One way to do that is perhaps through attunement. Collective trauma expert Thomas Hubel defines it as this process of synchronizing and aligning with another person's feelings while remaining grounded. And I work a lot in the area of surf therapy, especially with liquid therapy. And for me, when I heard this definition, I really felt that, well, attunement occurs not only, of course, with and between people, but with the living world around us. And what about blue attunement? Developing that through this deepening connection between ourselves and water. So blue attunement being this awareness and responsiveness to the body of water we're interacting with. Think of it as like a deep form of listening. And it's a way to foster this more profound sense of presence, aligning one's mind and body with the energy of the sea. And seeing how that can happen in such an effortless way. The ocean just holds our attention and presence in the moment. There's nothing like an oncoming wave to focus your attention in the now when it's headed for you. But it's this ability, I think, to understand ourselves through water that to enter in a way into this dialogue that I find so fascinating. But I wanted to share with you the memory of one such unexpected moment of blue attunement for myself while surfing off the coast of, well, it's actually coast of Sligo. I was going to say Donegal. Sorry. And it isn't maybe directly, well, yeah, it could be this wave here. Does anyone guess where this wave is? Yeah, where else could it be? So I'm just taking off on it, trying to dodge the oncoming lip. But and so I write about this in my book, Saltwater in the Blood, as a way to try to unpack what's this, the experience of moments like this. But going back to blue attunement, I write, my mind floats somewhere above the chaos, allowing my body to soften, moving back and forth like a frond of kelp. I am part of this wave of energy. The turbulence rips through my hair as I grip a stalk of slippery seaweed and allow my body to be moved like water. Instead of feeling exhausted and beat up, I feel charged. The wave action pulsing through me, I tilt my head back and see the underwater storm clouds dissipate as a milky light penetrates the churned white water. I push off the reef, rising easily as my lungs expand once again and my ears gently pop. So it's, trying to break down what happens in a wipeout moment. But something remarkable happens when we come into direct physical contact with water. And there's a growing body of evidence and science to support that. But to be immersed in these wild waters that still run free, is to feel, in a way, transported elsewhere, maybe perhaps quite literally, moving through a portal to another world, as Lucy Jones describes it in her book, Losing Eden. But it's not only moving, I think, from the solidness of land to the fluidness of water, also moving from the head into the body, like we just experienced. And I think it's this in particular that offers such healing potential, restoring those lost connections. And to be immersed in, I think, the Atlantic waters here off the west coast of Ireland is to be held in this mix of you described even colours before, the sweet rust-coloured bog water, the golden green iodine of the kelp forests, that purple blood of dillisk seaweed. It's really to enter into this territory of other beings, of the wild Atlantic salmon, or at least, it used to be before the salmon stopped returning to their birth rivers. So since that wipeout, and in many ways I've been tossed off since then, this new emerging science increasingly supports what Indigenous understanding of ecological interconnection. It's that more ancient wisdom and knowledge that's always been held and spoken to the importance of recognizing our interconnection. And so some of the science, for example, around sea spray aerosols, when we go outside and walk by the sea here, those sea spray aerosols that I inhaled when I surfaced after the wipeout have this complex, unique chemical composition that carries within them the signature of all life in the ocean. So these aerosols have been proven to reduce inflammation in the body cells. They modulate our cellular system involved in cell growth, immune functioning, and then similar findings have been found for waterfalls and river rapids. So water leaves its fingerprint on us, quite literally. I'm paraphrasing Hawaiian surfer scientist Dr. Cliff Capono and the remarkable findings of his surfer biome project. He showed how regular immersion in the ocean does alter our microbiome. So, over 50% of who we are is made up of this microbiome. And those of us who are immersed regularly in the ocean share bacteria found only in or on other marine mammals, like seals. So surfers, sea swimmers, possess distinct microbiomes compared to landlubbers. And this underscores for me, I think, the profound connection between humans and the ocean, and revealing how our bodies actually adapt and are influenced by these aquatic environments. And of course, challenging our notion of who we are, our marine identity. So just as water leaves its fingerprint on us, we also leave our imprint on water. And as I've said before, with the water cycle, it isn't some abstract, neatly drawn graph with water moving in a tidy circular process going on in the background of our lives. It's actually really messy, it's dynamic, entangled, and we are part of it. I learned from a Dina Navajo water protector, Pat McCabe, who I interviewed for my book, Ebb and Flow, how water is flowing and being filtered through the body of every being, every living thing, and through the consciousness of all life across all time. And that our bodies are connected to the watersheds and bodies of water that we live with and move in. All these waters literally become part of us, and water remembers. So I'm going to use this as a jump-off point for a bit of storytelling before I finish. I'm borrowing it from author Elif Shafak, who builds on this concept of water memory in her stunning book, There Are Rivers in the Sky. It's a work of fiction, but she draws on different concepts and science. So I'm going to draw on that now to help illustrate the power of water to connect in particular, and to deepen that relational connection or attunement. I wanted to weave together the stories of 3 people connected by a single water molecule as it journeys through time and place. And I'll begin here with Amergin. Before Amergin could land in what today is known as Ireland, legend tells how the Tuatha De Danann, these otherworldly beings, conjured a powerful storm to try and prevent him coming ashore. Amergin turned his boat out to sea and waited for the 9th wave before catching the wave and steering the boat safely to shore. I first learned about this story actually from through my dad's art, Barry Britton, who captured this moment in one of his iconic pen and ink drawings, which I think is just actually here behind me, of this moment of the Amergin taking off, a reinterpretation, taking off on this 9th wave, depicting unseen forces and the energy of the ocean, that moment of taking the drop, the acceptance and real possibility of failure, of being swallowed whole by the wave. And the story of this mythical 9th wave continues to be told today. Much of our mythology, folklore was orally told for millennia, only more recently been written. And I think even a cursory glance at Irish myth and folklore reveals the engagement with the non-human world, how essential that is for the uncertainty and climate crisis that we face. So as Amergin stepped from his boat after riding the 9th wave to shore some 3,000 years ago, and began the powerful invocation known as the Song of Amergin, a raindrop, small, spherical, and sacred, fell from the heavy low-lying clouds, scudding across a heaving Atlantic Ocean, a fall it had made many times before as it descended to earth and rose skyward again and again for billions of years. This time, a gust of wind caught it and carried it towards Amergin, who, a moment later, felt a drop of water on his lips. Both were changed forever. So remember this drop, for to quote Elif Shafak, inside this orb, it holds the secret of infinity, a story uniquely its own. A trace of this moment will remain embedded in its elemental form. Some 2,500 years later, in the early 17th century, on the volcanic shores of the Hawaiian Islands, a baby girl came into this world riding the rush of water like a wave from her mother's womb. In the amnion was a drop of water that long ago, from far away on a much colder island, was once a raindrop, carrying with it the memories of its previous lives, like a fingerprint. Born to Polynesian royalty, Princess Kaneamuna came into this world with the physical memory we all share of what it means to be at home in water. When we are born into the world, we carry birth trauma, essentially that separation from the sacred water. Kaneamuna understood that to be healed and become whole, we must return to that watery world. Her lifelong love of surfing was so great that on her death, her surfboard was placed alongside her in her burial cave, and that's an image of it, the oldest known surfboard to be discovered from the 17th century. Perhaps the origins of surf therapy itself. Centuries later, and 15 years after the devastating 2004 tsunami to hit Southeast Asia and claiming over 250,000 lives, 250,000, one of the hardest hit regions was the southern coast of Sri Lanka. In some places, 80% of the lives lost were women, and there remains a legacy of intergenerational trauma and fear of the sea, especially for women and children. So how then can the ocean be transformed from this place of loss and danger to one of healing? How can our relationship be transformed from this fearful one to a loving one? Sea Sisters, like a liquid therapy counterpart across the globe in Sri Lanka, is a remarkable example of how psychological transformation can occur even in places, or especially in places of trauma. Established in 2017 with the purpose of fostering this love for the ocean, especially for those most excluded from it, women and girls. So through their swim and surf programs, they cultivate this blue attunement, equipping women with the skills also needed to make a living in surf tourism, an almost exclusively male-dominated domain until now. So one of Sea Sisters' early members, Mona, had avoided going to the beach for years, a place of tragedy, fear, loss, but with encouragement from her friends, she joined her first surf lesson. And as she rode her first wave, lying on her belly, feeling the movement of the wave under her body, she began to laugh. A drop of water from the breaking wave splashed into her mouth with the aura of a Hawaiian princess impressed upon it. Later, Mona described how there was some kind of energy coming into my heart. And eventually, the ocean and surfing became Mona's way to overcome those fears, manage stress in her life, taking her 2 daughters into the sea with her, breaking a cycle of intergenerational trauma. So perhaps this same drop of water also passed through here. Perhaps it's in your bottle of water, it was in your coffee this morning. But all of this speaks to how interwoven we are with one another. And yet, I will just add here as well that the very search for this more authentic connection to nature that we find ourselves seeking today is itself a product of modernization, the modern society we find ourselves in. The very definition of nature, the language to describe it as other outside of us poses a problem, especially in the English language, leading, I think, to this, in part, to this otherness, this separation we feel. So what if instead we recognized our entanglement, our kinship, that's so evident in language of indigenous cultures the world over, but also in the Irish language. And here, these are the words from Irish philosopher John O'Donoghue, who describes this concept in, I suppose, an old Irish worldview, how there's no dualism or separation between self, senses, and nature, how the human skin is porous, the world flows through your senses, fitta fuita, as O'Donoghue translated, woven into and through each other. So again, how there's no separation between ourself and nature, between the eternal and living worlds, and that the act of surfing perhaps could be framed in a similar way, this active engagement with the agency or animacy of the earth. Yeah, I think maybe it'll come up in our conversations in the panel session, and this is it's not a talk filled with data, of which there is much to support a lot of what I'm sharing, but I wanted to also just point to how there are different ways we can maybe challenge our perception, the silo that we're maybe coming from, and break out of that way of thinking. So Irish writer Moncton McGann also challenged the mythologies of our dominant culture. So the most dominant myth, we're told, is that we're separate from nature, this root of all the problems we're experiencing. But he shared how myths used to be context relevant, a relational experience about place, our relationship with place, a dialogue with a specific place that would live in breath and in community. And these stories were dynamic and evolving. Myths were created to become a vehicle for ecological wisdom. So teaching us when to grow, when to gather, how to create community, how to be in right relationship with the world around us, how to inhabit a specific ecology. And Irish myths are very much the realm of earth and water deities, especially associated with these cycles of death and rebirth. And similarly, Donna Haraway writes in When Species Meet about the power and importance of companion species. So often when there's this relationship and really profound place attachment surfers have with a particular wave, almost like our wave is our companion species. But how those relationships change our behavior as we do them, revealing how we emerge from relationships. So for one example being for myself, I have a great affinity with the salmon, perhaps one of my companion species, as I mentioned. My name having its origins in that old Irish word for fish, and being named after a salmon river that creates this beautiful wave in Easkey, my dad's favorite surf spot. And of course, then there's the Bradán Fasa, that one of our most well-known myths, salmon of knowledge. So there was a time, I think, when our ancestors understood the wisdom of other species, a time when we listened and paid attention to the more than human world that perhaps we have forgotten and need to remember. And for me, that my name reminds me that my identity is tied to the identity of the salmon. All of our identities are inextricably linked to the sea. We've all been shaped and formed by the water. And now, to bring you back, or all of this back into a more embodied way of knowing, I wanted to invite you, if you do have something to drink, water, to take a sip now, or simply notice the water in your body, the saliva in your mouth. And as you follow the water into your body, consider the journey through time and place that water has been on. Noticing, can you feel some kind of energy coming into your heart? And as Elif Shafak reminds us, water remembers. It is humans who forget. The journey of this drop of water reminds us of the unifying power of water, how we can't be well in a sick sea, and to heal ourselves and restore our wild waters, we must restore our relationship with water through cultivating this blue attunement, essentially deepening our relationship with the ocean. And I love the work of author Sophie Strand, who reminds us that we also desperately need to try to be the medicine. So often we are trying to tap into nature as medicine for us. But if we also, I think it's high time we flip that as well and ask, if water is the medicine, how can we, you and I, be medicine for the water, rivers, and seas? And perhaps that will inform some of our panel discussions today. These are just some musings, invitations, or inquiries of what I'm pondering. And I'll leave them with you as well. Maybe we'll come across them in our discussions and conversations today. But just thinking about maybe what ways you've experienced that blue attunement and how it shapes your sense of belonging. And if, as I firmly believe, identity is rooted in relationship, what ways might our marine identity, that sea connection, support marine sustainability, our thriving coastal communities? And if we are marine citizens in these times of uncertainty, how do we hold, and this is a tricky one, tension between the ocean as a source of vitality and vulnerability? So, just small thoughts. Yeah. And thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to the rest of today, continuing the conversation.